Joining us on the show is one of the greatest players in Jacksonville Jaguars history. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler and 3-time first-team All-Pro. He has been named a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame and a member of the Jaguars Ring of Honor. He's an NFL analyst now. Tony Boselli joining us this morning here on the show. Tony, good morning. Tony, can you hear me? Well, we'll get him back on the show, get him connected. The introduction was amazing, astounding, beautiful, perfect. And so we assume he was just knocked over because...
I'm here.
Oh, now you're here, Tony. What's up, buddy?
I had you on mute. I was talking. It was on mute.
It's all good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for joining us as always. And let's start with your Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you think about Doug Marrone's decision not to rest any players to play to win in a game this weekend that doesn't matter for them, and the Jaguars won't have a bye week after that?
I think it's the smart thing to do. It only doesn't matter in the seeding. I think it matters a lot for this team. Number one, it's a division rival who came in the second week of the season and beat the heck out of you. Physically beat you up pretty good. And there's a chance that if you don't beat them, you got to play them again next week. And so I think just the fact they're a division rival, it's the only team you have not beat in the division this year. You're a young football team. I think this is an important game for them. I agree 100%. You got to go out and you need to knock out Tennessee from the playoffs because it's a group in Tennessee, and you listen to the talk this week. Darrell Casey was very poignant about it. They feel like, listen, the Jaguars might be the division South champs, but we beat them bad, and we're going to beat them again. And then if we play us, we'll beat them one more time. So I think it's a really important game for a young football team.
I'm not sure that the Jaguars can go to Foxborough and win, but I feel like they can give the Patriots a good run for their money. I think the same thing about them going to Pittsburgh and playing them at Heinz Field, the Steelers. Can the Jaguars be a thorn in the side of one of the top 2 seeds in that divisional round?
Yes. They already beat the heck out of the Steelers in Pittsburgh earlier in the year. And with the defense, when they play the way they're capable of, and they have most of the year, they had a letdown last week, they're as good as anybody, and they can really be suffocating. And they can rush the passer. They got the secondary, can run with receivers. And if you look at the matchups, if they have to go to either one of those places, they're going to be able to pressure the quarterbacks. Neither Brady or Roethlisberger move very well, and they're going to be able to cover outside. And that coupled with the fact that when Leonard Fournette is healthy, that's why my guess is he'll sit out this week. That's one guy that they will rest to make sure he's ready for the playoffs. That run game is the best run game in the league, and that combination plays well in the playoffs. So I've said for the last few weeks, this is a team that can beat anybody in the playoffs and could end up in Minneapolis. It would be a little bit of a surprise, but they're that talented defensively, and their run games can be that good. But it's also a team that could be done in 1 week and lose the first game. And just because they are young and the margin for error, the way they play, the margin for winning is pretty small with the way they play.
Final question on the Jaguars, because I agree. I think they're one of the most interesting teams in this tournament in the postseason. What did Doug Marrone do, Tom Coughlin, or whoever, to fix Blake Bortles this season?
That's a great question because it did not look like they had fixed him in the preseason. Everyone forgets he got benched in the third preseason game for Chad Henne. It was bad.
Right.
And give him credit, the mental fortitude he has. And now he did a lot of work in the offseason on his own. And so, some thought is that work was taking some time to be ingrained and he just needed the reps. But then I think both Nathaniel Hackett and the offensive coordinator and Doug Marrone a lot of credit. Doug, from the standpoint, he said, listen, we're taking all the pressure off Blake. We're going to play great defense, run the ball. And that's what they did early. And then Nathaniel Hackett, and so that allowed Blake kind of work his way into the season. And then Nathaniel Hackett has been on him and has worked tirelessly with the footwork and the fundamentals. And Blake has been very, very diligent and has put a lot of time on his own to make sure those fundamentals are good. And I think you're seeing the payoff.
Tony Boselli joins us, member of the NFL All-Decade team of the 1990s, NFL analyst joining us here on the show. What an interesting decision, I think, by Andy Reid to say, yes, Patrick Mahomes, you can start Week 17. Does this open up a can of worms if Mahomes plays really well on Sunday and then maybe Alex Smith struggles in that first playoff game?
Well, I think the can of worms is already open for next year. I think it's been decided that it's almost they've made the decision that Patrick Mahomes is going to be their guy of the future. And he's going to be the guy who's going to take the reins as early as next year. And I think this is an opportunity for the organization to give him some reps and some experience. I don't think it means anything for the playoffs this year. I mean, Alex Smith is going to be the guy. But I have thought for a while that Alex Smith would be playing somewhere else next year.
So you don't think that if Mahomes really played well, that Andy Reid might be inclined to go to Mahomes in, say, the second half of the first playoff game the Chiefs play if Alex Smith is struggling?
No, I don't think so. I mean, unless the game's out of hand. But if they're in a tight game, I do not see Andy Reid benching Alex Smith in a playoff game. Because, listen, you know it as well as I do. I mean, week 17, when there's nothing to play for, the intensity levels at one stage, and you get in the playoffs, everything's faster, tighter, more intense. I cannot see him doing that to his team or to Patrick Mahomes, for that matter, put him in that situation. Alex Smith will be the quarterback outside of a blowout for the playoffs for the Chiefs.
When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, they're sitting with a bye, and obviously they've had a great season. But who knows about their threat level when it comes to the quarterback? What do you think about Nick Foles taking over as quarterback in the playoffs? And can the Eagles still get to Minneapolis with their number 2 QB?
I think it's a long road for them. And you know, listen, Nick Foles has played some really good football. I mean, he has a resume at times he's looked really good, but he's also looked really bad. And he was the backup for a reason. They're a better team, obviously, with Carson Wentz, and you're going to have a drop off. Now the question is, can Doug Peterson figure out to manufacture stuff through the run game and that defense play at a high enough level that you can cover that up? They've done a good job. I mean, they've had more injuries. If you look at the amount of injuries they've had across the board of some key guys, I mean, just look at maybe one of the best left tackles in football, Jason Peters being out, and you can go down the list of certain guys. He's done an outstanding job, but I think it's probably it wouldn't surprise me if they win in the divisional round, but I can't see them making it all the way to Minneapolis with Nick Foles at quarterback.
When it comes to the New Orleans Saints, they've got 2 pieces of the puzzle that are good for away from home, and that is running the football effectively and playing solid defense. But we know just how important home field advantage has always been, playing in that Superdome with the crowd and the noise for the New Orleans Saints. Do the Saints need to win the division to have a shot at winning a playoff game, or because they're built differently than they have been in the past, can they go on the road, travel, and still get a W in January?
I think they can travel just because of what you said. They're built differently. Their defense is playing much better. It's not built around just Drew Brees. And the addition of Alvin Kamara, who in my opinion is the offensive rookie of the year, I mean, he's outstanding. He's so dynamic, and he's one of the most fun guys to watch on tape. He is a difference maker in the standpoint of the way they've always played with Drew Brees. They spread it out. They do a lot of things in space, and now they have a guy in the backfield that can exploit that at a high level. And it also opens up things for Mark Ingram in the run game. So I really like the Saints. I think there's 2 teams that interest me as far as that I give the best chance of going to Minneapolis, and it's the Vikings and the Saints. I think both those teams are really good. I think they're the most complete teams in the NFC, and those are one of those teams I think are going to end up representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
So I agree with Minnesota. I think the Vikings are clearly one of the 2 best teams of the NFC, but I'm leaning towards the Rams over the Saints. Why would you give the Saints the nod over L.A.?
I think probably Drew Brees over Jared Goff more than anything. I think if you look at both defenses, they're both good defenses. You know, obviously they got the Rams got Aaron Donald, maybe the best defensive player in the league this year, but Cam Jordan for the Saints has had an outstanding year, and that defense is pretty good on their own merit. And you look at the numbers; they're pretty close. Todd Gurley, great back. Is he better than Kamara and the Ingram combination? Probably a little bit, but not by much if you put it all together and look at the numbers. And then I just think Drew Brees is, you know, the experience level, the big game. I think Jared Goff and what McVay has done with him is outstanding, and I think, you know, obviously he was justified to where he was picked, and you have confidence that he can be that franchise guy. But we haven't seen it I want to see what happens in the playoffs when it's on the game's on the line. What's going to happen, and they have to go get a score in a critical moment. Will Goff be able to do that for them? I know Drew Brees can.
Tony Boselli joining us here on the show. Final question, because it wouldn't be an NFL spot without talking about instant replay at this point in time. You've been a player and you've been a broadcaster. Do you think the instant replay system needs to be fixed?
It's broken, and it's not doing what it was designed to do. I mean, the fact that we are now freeze framing and with the HD and every angle going to the minute, well, did his foot touch the blade of grass or it didn't? What happened to the days where the rule was if it's not conclusive evidence, we're not overturning the call? And go to the Kelvin Benjamin touchdown or non-touchdown now. If you watch it, they called it a touchdown field. And if you watch the replay, is it close? Yeah. But it was called a touchdown field, so it should stay. I don't think replay should be put in place to dissect at the lowest, most minute level every single thing that is happening on the field. It's supposed to make sure the egregious calls get corrected. And that's not what happened. That's not what is happening right now.
Tony Boselli joining us here on the show. Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalist, member of the Ring of Honor for the Jaguars, one of the great offensive linemen of his generation. And Tony, as we creep closer to Hall of Fame weekend, I think we'll have to have you back on and reflect on your awesome career. But as always, I love picking your brain going forward towards Week 17. Westwood 1, NFL analyst for the Jaguars, and as I mentioned, an amazing playing career. Tony, it's always good to catch up, buddy. Have a happy new year, and we'll talk to you in 2018.
Hey, thank you. Happy New Year to you and your family and everyone on the show.
Okay, man. Thanks so much. Tony Boselli joining us here on the show.